Welcome to the studio. So tonight I thought we would do a painting, but with a little different point of emphasis. Tonight we're going to talk about painting distance rather than painting a picture. And painting distance is a little bit tricky. It's not straightforward. It is straightforward if you look at a picture, but it doesn't always reach into your mind and say, this is how you do it. Okay, so let me explain what I'm talking about. I've got a picture here of a nice mountain scene. There's a little valley down here. And the distance in this picture, and we're going to see in just about all these pictures, the distance is still an object we're going to paint out here, but it's lighter. And if you can see here, it's bluer than everything else. So that's the way we want to represent distance. We want to lighten what we're painting and paint it a little bit bluer. Let me get a different picture. Here we go. We can see in the foreground, nice and dark, we have some reds over here. Then we move into a little bit of purple with our red back here, a little bluer, and as we go back here, it really lightens up. Our last rock back here is pretty blue and pretty light. And then our sky is almost nothing back behind it. Here we've got a nice scene. I think I painted this a while ago. Anyways, we can see the nice green trees and fields here in the foreground. And as we move up in our picture, the land keeps getting bluer and bluer until we're at the horizon line. That's really blue, and it's much lighter here than our intense color down here. And one more we can see, and this one's blue to begin with. Our water here is very dark blue, right? And we go back in our trees, which we think of a tree as being green. Well, our trees back here have an awful lot of blue in them. In fact, there's more blue in these than there is green. And if you can see right here, our tree line comes out and stops. And then the next tree line behind it is much lighter, much lighter, all when it fades off way back here. So that's what we want to do when we represent distance. I'm gonna paint this picture because I think it gives us a nice starting point. But we wanna just show that by painting a nice light blue or maybe a little bit of color. And let's just demonstrate this. Okay. I am going to use, let me grab these. I'm going to use my Winsor Newton paints here. Oh, let me just put them out here and pull my paper down. Here we go. I'm going to paint a sky, and so I'm going to get my French ultramarine with just a little bit of Winsor blue mixed in. I'm going to use that as my sky. I'm just going to drop that in here and let that come straight down. I'm just going to pull it down. I'm not going to replicate this picture exactly, but you'll get the idea of what I'm talking about. I'm just going to give a little bit more intensity up in the top of my sky. Clean my brush out. I should say I'm using my ZenArt Squirrel Mix brush. This is from the Turner collection. Very nice brush. If you want a link to ZenArt, I have a link in the description to this video. And I'm just going to blot in maybe a couple little clouds. And I'm just going to blend that. There we go. I just don't want a hard edge on there. I'm just taking that off. Good, there's my clouds done. All right, and now we're going to start with what we see in the background of this, which is just our hills. And I'm just reaching in. I'm going to grab a little smaller brush. I could do it with that large brush. I've got a hair here that has come out. Let's see if I can get that real carefully. Maybe not. All right, it's going to stay. Let's see if I can get it in here and zoom in just a little bit so we can see what's going on. All right. I'm going to mix in a little bit of my French ultramarine. I think you can see that. my French ultramarine, and for my distant hills, I'm going to use, let's see, I am going to use a little bit of burnt umber mixed with that. These mountains are dark. There we go. That's a nice mixture. I'm going to get it a little bit watery. I don't want to use too much of that. And I'm just going to put these in. I'm going to make up a line for these. There we go. Just going to pull that across. There's what my mountain range is going to look like. And I'm just going to pull that line down. There we go. Come on. Work with me. Paint. Perfect. Just something like that. And now all of a sudden we've got our distant. I'm just bringing this down. I want this to fade into the foreground here. There we go. I'm just making sure I got a nice graded wash on here. It's gonna fade into the foreground, and that's gonna blend way back there. I'm gonna put another line right in front of that, and I'm gonna use this one also with my burnt umber. There it is. I'm gonna mix it just a little bit more strongly right into that same pool. So I still have plenty of blue in there, but it's a stronger mix of the burnt umber. And it's a little damp, but I think we can get away with it. Let's see. I'm just looking off to the sides. It's a little damp. We can probably get away with it. If we get a little run in here, that'll be fine. Let's see. The next line of hills kind of goes something like this down along this valley floor and straight up. There we go. Yeah, I got a little run, but that's okay. Just gonna pull that down. You know what that tells me? There's a little bit of mist here. That's what it tells me. And we can't see the hard edge of that hill. And if anybody asks, that's the story I'm gonna stick with. There we go. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, that's misty back there. You can't tell. Now, I'm going to wait for this to dry just a second. While I do that, I'm going to mix in that same pile of paint. A pile. Right, my paint is in a pile. I don't know where that came from. My same puddle of paint. Paint is in a puddle. If it was a mountain, the mountain would be in a pile. But over here, it's still paint. It's still in a puddle. Okay. Let's try a little bit of our permanent sap green. There we go. We got a little bit of a grayish, greenish mixture. Now look, we still have some wet over here and a little bit wet here. I'm going to kind of force the issue because I'm going to say that this hill comes right down like this. Again, that's all that mist there. I just named it mist. There we go. Right on down. I need to mix a little bit more of my color. Get a little bit of that blue in there. Whoops. There we go. That's close. That's pretty good. And our hill's going to come down on this side. I'm trying to leave a little bit more jagged line, this part notwithstanding, but a little bit more jagged line. That's going to be more the tops of some pine trees sticking up, or maybe some other kinds of trees sticking up just like that. And where I want to down here, I'm just going to let that thin out and draw that down. And you can already see from what we've done, we used basically the same puddle, right? And we've got these hills here which look way back in the distance, and we've got this little range of hills here which still has a lot of blue in that, and it looks closer. And as soon as I put that green on, boom, that went back, and the green part came forward. It's like magic. And now I'm gonna mix a little sap green, a little bit of olive green. I don't want this super bright. Let's see, and you know what I'm gonna put in here, excuse me, is I'm gonna put in a little raw sienna here. If I can get that wet, there it goes. There we go. That's gonna make it a little bit more yellow. It's going to help me. It's the raw sienna is a little bit opaque, and it's going to help me differentiate the green color. And so let's see. I've got this hill that comes down this way. And I'm just going to change this ever so slightly. Let's get back to my sap green and olive green mix. I'm just going to put in just a tiny little bit of Viridian, and that's going to change that color just enough so that when I do it on this side, I should have done the Viridian first. That's okay. It's going to push that right into the back. Now the shape in the front is also going to help with that. And there we go. We've painted quite a bit of distance into our picture now. Let's see if you can see this. And move everything else off to the side. And this is what I want to show. And I should say, this is how I came to do this. I was actually painting a painting on my vacation I just got back from. And while I was painting it, I was talking with my mother, and as mothers are, she was curious about how I paint, what I do. And so I was explaining to her how you paint things in the distance, and she was fascinated. She went, "How come you don't talk about that in your video? That's an exciting, interesting thing." And she's like, I can't believe everybody knows that. You should be talking about that all the time." So the moral of the story is, I guess, I was listening to my mother, and this is what we get. So I'm just going back, and I'm just trying to tighten up the top edge of this a little bit, just like this. I got to be careful because the painting's still wet. We haven't been going for very long here. We're at, oh, how long have we been working on this? 12 minutes. And so none of it is very dry, but we can come back in and just give the indication of some trees. We'll have to be careful when we get down to our yellow down here. We're just going to bring it mostly down there. Just grabbing that wet edge. My brush, I should say, is just damp. It's not really wet. I'm just barely getting the tip wet, just enough to pull this paint down ever so slightly. There we go. And since we had color on underneath this, it's going to look like maybe there's a little bit of highlight down there between these two layers. Paint. We can make this even more pronounced in one area up here. There we go. We don't have to have that straight line coming down. We can just paint right over top. There we go. I actually like that. That's gives it a little bit more interest when it's not all straight up and down. There we go. And without putting on any real detail, all of a sudden we've got a painting that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels deep, if we count the sky in the background, and it looks fantastic. We've in no time have just made this incredibly deep painting. And if we were to keep going with it, you know, we could add some detail up here. Let's see, maybe we can do that. Let's see if we can't finish this out a little bit. I'm going to grab a fan brush, and I'm just barely going to get it wet. I haven't tried this. Normally I try this on a separate sheet of paper. I don't happen to have one around me, but we're gonna do this. This is gonna be fun. All right, so I've got my paint on my fan brush. I should do it like this. Here we go. I'm just kind of running it right through here. And I'm going to take it and just flick up. And we'll see. Well, first of all, what we see is I don't have enough paint on my brush. But you gotta do this with it fairly dry. It can't be too wet, or the paint just kind of smears. So I've just mixed a little bit of extra paint off the side, and we just grab it and flick it up just ever so much. And you know what we've all of a sudden got is a little meadow here with some grasses growing in it. There we go. We kind of cheated on it a little bit. If we put some lines on it like this now, it'll look like there's a depression here and a little rise there. We can vary that color, move into some of our, I don't know, burnt sienna or raw umbers in here. There we go. Just put those on. And we're just doing it very fast and flicking it basically. Blink, blink, blink. Just touch the very ends of those bristles and flick up. All right, there we go. And you can see all of a sudden now we've got, let's see if you can see them there. There you go. Now we've got a hillside here that's got some nice texture to it. And one of the nice things that it does is it takes away from, see, I'm just going to put a couple little more things in here. There we go. I just want to pull that right on over the side. And if you do this real gently with a nice fan brush, you can really pull that out, and you can really give a lot of detail in those grasses. There we go. I'm going to go back to my round brush. Actually, this is a different. This one's dry. This is a little different one. Never mind. I'm going to get an even smaller one. Here we go. This is what do I have here? This is a number 2, and I'm going to mix up. I'm just going to go back and mix up a little bit of this color. Let's see. I had a burnt umber in there. There we go. A little bit of that sap green. I'll throw a little bit of olive green in there. And just a touch of blue. Yes, yes, I know, it looks like a big mess. That's okay. I'm gonna water that down. I want to come back in here and we're almost dry. I just want to give indication of some trees in here. This is actually pretty good that it's not quite. Let's see, how do I do this? There we go. Maybe we can do it this way. Can't do it that way. Normally I would just flip this thing upside down. There we go. Because it's still wet, this paint is going to run. It's going to bleed in just ever so slightly. Now I don't want to pull that all the way down because I want this kind of hard edge. I want people to be able to see that difference, but I want some lines in here. The vertical lines are going to make it stand up, and it's going to make it look, it's going to stretch it out a little bit. It's going to make it look like it's even further from top to bottom. So there we go. I'm going to just put a couple of more of these on here. I'm going to go back to my little bigger brush. Is this it? No, this one's dry. I don't know what happened to my old brush. And just with it a little damp, just so slightly, I'm going to go back and I'm going to make sure that I've kind of messed with the bottoms of these. What I don't want to have is people to look at this and see that it looks like I've just taken a brush and went blap, blap, blap and dabbed that on. But if you see that little dab of color up there a little bit more, you're much more likely to think a tree, and your mind's going to pick up that little extra detail. There we go. There, I'm liking that. I like that. Maybe just a couple of spots here and there. Perfect. That's good. I don't want to do any detail back in the back here. Nothing. That's so far out of sight. There's you can't see almost no detail back there. And this little bit in the front here is going to be just enough to make you believe when you see it that there's a lot of trees in there, and those are some shadows being cast. And I think, you know what I think? I'm going to take that same color. I'm just going to put a couple, I'm going to go back to my fan brush. I'm going to put a couple little lines over here. I'm looking at this, and this little hillock here needs a little bit of love. Not too much, it's doing okay. But if I take that color that I used for those trees and just throw it up there, there we go. You just give it a little bit of texture. I think that works out pretty nicely. So there you go. Anyways, I got a little distracted, a little off topic. Imagine that from me. Huh. There you go. There's a quick tutorial in painting distance and how you get distance into your painting. Lighter in the background, bluer in the background. The lighter and the bluer it is, the further back into your painting it's going to look like it goes. More bright, intense colors in the front. Reds and yellows in the front are going to look better. Blues and greens will actually push things back a little bit for you. Anyways, there you go. There's the painting. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time in the studio. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye-bye.